Hey everyone, welcome to Say It Real.
where we believe fluency starts with real conversations, just like this one.
Hey, welcome back to Say It Real, the podcast where real conversations help you build real fluency. So happy you're here with us today.
And I'm really glad you're here too. Although, I have to warn you, today's topic is going to get a little personal.
Yeah, it starts off sounding very simple and harmless, and then suddenly all your unfinished goals, abandoned habits, and forgotten plans just walk into the room uninvited.
Like, oh, so we're talking about me today, are we?
Exactly, because today we're asking a question that makes a lot of people quietly uncomfortable. Why do we quit too early? And more importantly, why do we often not even realize we're doing it?
This is such a real topic because quitting early doesn't always look dramatic. It doesn't always feel like a big moment of surrender.
Right, it's rarely I give up, I'm done, goodbye forever. It's usually much quieter than that. It sounds like maybe this just isn't the right time, or I'll come back to it when life settles down a little.
Or the most popular one, I'll restart on Monday.
Monday, the most optimistic day of the week, quietly carrying the weight of every abandoned plan since the beginning of time.
Poor Monday, it never asked for that job.
Really didn't. But this is exactly why the topic matters so much. Most people who quit early are not lazy, they're not incapable. They stop because the journey gets quiet, repetitive, and unclear. And in that strange middle stage, it becomes very easy to believe that nothing is happening, even when something genuinely is.
Even when real growth is happening just below the surface.
And that's the trap, because sometimes quitting doesn't feel like giving up at all. Sometimes it feels like protecting yourself from disappointment, from frustration, from the exhausting feeling of trying hard and not seeing results yet.
Which is such a deeply human feeling. Most people aren't afraid of starting something new. They're afraid of continuing when the excitement is completely gone.
Yes, the beginning feels bright and full of possibility. The middle feels confusing and slow and unrewarding. And the middle is where most people quietly walk away from things that could have genuinely transformed them.
So today, we're going to talk about all of it. Why people lose energy in the boring middle, why discomfort feels like failure, why comparison makes everything harder, and why so many people leave just before their progress starts to actually show.
This is a B2 level episode, so the language will be a little richer, but still natural, warm, and comfortable to follow. Don't worry if you miss a word or here or there. Just stay with us, listen for the meaning, and let your English grow naturally as we go.
And if you enjoy learning English through honest, real conversations like this one, please subscribe to Say It Real, give this episode a like, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new episode. It really does make a difference. Okay, let's get into it.
So let's start at the very beginning, because the beginning of almost any goal feels genuinely incredible, doesn't it?
Oh, completely. New plan, new energy, new version of yourself. New notebook, very important.
The notebook is absolutely essential, non-negotiable.
But the beginning really does have something special. Everything feels clean and open and possible. There's this sense of hope that's almost physical, like you can actually feel it.
And I think that's because starting something new leaves an impression on us. When something leaves an impression, it creates a strong and lasting feeling that stays with you. You remember how it made you feel, excited, motivated, ready for something different.
You remember the promise you made to yourself. This time, I'm going to follow through. And you meant it. You weren't performing, you genuinely meant it.
Most people are completely sincere in the beginning. They're full of real intention and real energy. The problem isn't the intention. The problem is what happens after the intention meets reality.
Right, because reality doesn't always cooperate with our enthusiasm.
Not even slightly. And the reason the beginning feels so powerful is worth understanding properly. It's not just about the action you're taking, It's about identity. When you start something new, you feel close, maybe for the first time in a while, to the person you want to become.
And that feeling is genuinely beautiful, but it can also mislead you
How so?
because people often mistake that beginning energy for proof that they'll keep going. The logic feels solid. I feel so motivated right now, therefore I will stay motivated. But motivation and endurance are not the same thing.
Starting strong is wonderful. Staying strong is a completely different and much harder skill.
And nobody really teaches you that. You hear about starting, you hear about finishing, but the long, unglamorous middle, that part doesn't get much airtime.
Which brings us right to it, the boring middle.
The middle is genuinely rough. The beginning was exciting, the end, if you reach it, is rewarding. But the middle is repetitive, quiet, and slow. It doesn't feel impressive. It doesn't photograph well. It doesn't make a great story to tell people.
And that middle stage can really take a toll on people. When something takes a toll on you, it slowly has a negative effect on your energy and emotions over time, not all at once, gradually, week by week, quietly.
You keep showing up, but you're not seeing much change. You're trying, but you're getting tired. You're doing the work, but the work doesn't seem to be doing much back.
And at some point, you find yourself staring at your goal like it personally wronged you.
I have given you everything, and you have given me nothing in return.
Exactly that energy. And this is when people start to feel reluctant. Reluctant means not fully willing, a little hesitant, a little unsure. You haven't officially quit yet, but your heart isn't fully there anymore.
You delay. You make excuses that sound reasonable. You tell yourself you'll get back to it when things are less busy. And the tricky part is this stage can feel completely rational. You might genuinely think, maybe I'm just being realistic about my limits. Maybe this goal wasn't right for me.
And sometimes, genuinely, that's true. But a lot of the time, it's not honesty. It's exhaustion wearing the mask of wisdom.
Because the middle doesn't reward you quickly. It asks you to keep going before things feel worth it. And that feels deeply unfair when you're in it.
Very unfair. And yet, that's exactly where the real work lives. Not in the exciting beginning, not in the triumphant finish, in the quiet, unglamorous, unrewarded middle.
So let's talk about what makes the middle so hard to stay in, because I think there are a few specific things that work against people, and understanding them makes a real difference.
The first one is what I'd call the invisibility of growth, because here's a truth that catches a lot of people off guard. Progress doesn't always announce itself.
Right, sometimes change is visible and clear and measurable, but very often it's happening quietly, in ways you can't easily see or track.
You might not be noticeably better at something yet, but maybe you're more patient than you were before. Maybe you're more focused than you were. Maybe you're emotionally steadier when things get difficult. Maybe you're slowly learning what it actually feels like to keep a promise to yourself.
And those things matter enormously, but most people don't count them because they can't measure them.
Which is why this is so important to understand. Your perception of your own progress is not always accurate. Perception means the way you see and interpret something, and your brain is genuinely not a reliable judge of your own growth.
Not at all. Your brain tends to compare where you are now to where you imagined you'd be by now. And that imagined version was created during the exciting beginning, when imagination was being very generous.
Imagination is extremely generous in the beginning. Your imagined future self is calm, disciplined, confident, and somehow always well-rested.
And then reality shows up and says, actually, you're still figuring it out. And your brain says, unacceptable, not what I ordered.
But think about this in the context of learning English. Someone might feel completely stuck because they're not speaking fluently yet. But maybe they understand significantly more than they did 3 months ago. Maybe they hesitate less when they read. Maybe they feel less panicked when they hear fast English.
That is real, genuine growth. It's just not loud. And quiet progress is still progress.
People tend to celebrate visible progress and dismiss invisible progress. But here's the thing. Invisible progress is almost always the foundation for everything that comes later. Before confidence appears on the outside, it builds quietly on the inside first. Before a skill looks smooth and easy, it goes through a long, difficult, messy phase.
And people abandon it right in the middle of that messy phase because they think the mess means it isn't working.
When actually, the mess is the work. The mess is what the process looks like from the inside.
So, if you're in a quiet season right now, a period where things feel slow and unclear and a little discouraging, that doesn't automatically mean you're lost or failing. It might just mean you're building something that isn't visible yet.
Hold on to that, because the second thing that works against people in the middle is closely related, and it's this: confusing discomfort with failure.
This one is so widespread and so damaging.
Because the moment something feels genuinely difficult or awkward, many people read it as a signal, a sign from somewhere that says, this must not be for you.
But discomfort doesn't automatically mean stop. Sometimes it means stretch. Sometimes it means you're genuinely learning something new and your old ways of doing things are being challenged. Sometimes it means your identity is slowly shifting, and identity shifts are never comfortable.
And the really strange thing is that the moments of highest discomfort are often the moments closest to a breakthrough.
Yes, to be on the verge of something means you're very close to it happening, and people are often on the verge of something genuinely important. A real improvement, a new level of confidence, a meaningful shift, but because it feels unfamiliar, their brain labels it as danger.
Our brains don't always say, congratulations, this difficulty means you're growing. Sometimes they say, exit immediately, find something easier, protect yourself.
Which is understandable, but not always helpful.
Not helpful at all. And this applies to so many areas. Speaking in front of people, trying to be more disciplined, building a new habit, learning a skill that doesn't come easily. All of those things feel uncomfortable at first, not because they're wrong, but because they're new.
Hard doesn't automatically mean harmful. Awkward doesn't automatically mean impossible.
And I think this is where self-compassion becomes genuinely practical, not just a nice idea. Because if every uncomfortable feeling becomes your signal to quit, then meaningful growth becomes structurally impossible. You simply cannot expand and stay fully comfortable at the exact same time. Something in you has to stretch.
That's beautiful and also slightly frustrating to hear.
Very frustrating, but true. And now let's add the third thing that makes the middle so hard. Because this one is everywhere and almost nobody talks about how much damage it does.
Comparison.
Comparison. Quiet, constant, corrosive comparison, because it can make your real progress feel completely invisible.
You've been working, you've been showing up, you've been doing the unglamorous work in the middle, and then you see someone else, their results, their progress, their highlight reel, and suddenly everything you've built feels like nothing.
And the problem is that growth is genuinely unpredictable. It doesn't follow a clean, universal schedule. One person improves quickly in one area and slowly in another. One person gets visible results early, another person builds more quietly over a much longer time. Neither path is wrong.
But everything we see online makes growth look fast, clean, and linear.
Week 1, struggling. Week 2, breakthrough. Week 3, transformed, confident, drinking something green in natural light.
Always a green drink, always a natural light.
Always. But real progress is messy and uneven and private. And if you measure your behind-the-scenes struggle against someone else's curated best moments, you will feel behind, even when you're exactly where you need to be.
So instead of comparing results, what actually matters is something much simpler: whether you show willingness to stay in the process. To show willingness means to demonstrate that you are open, ready, and prepared to keep trying, even when it's difficult and unrewarding.
Maybe you're not fast. Maybe you're not perfect. Maybe you're making more mistakes than you'd like. But are you still willing to learn? Are you still willing to stay?
Because comparison keeps asking, am I ahead? But real growth just asks, am I still here?
Say that one more time.
Comparison asks, am I ahead? Growth asks, am I still here?
Yes, and if you're still here, still learning, still trying, still showing up even on the uninspiring days, then the story is absolutely not over.
Which leads us to what I think is the most heartbreaking part of this whole conversation. People so often leave right before something begins to shift.
This one genuinely gets to me every time because it happens constantly and quietly. A person works hard, struggles, doubts, gets tired, feels nothing is happening, and then, just as things are starting to move, they walk away. To walk away from something means to leave it behind, to step away and stop.
They walk away from the habit, the practice, the goal, the version of themselves that was quietly, slowly being built. Not because they had no ability, not because they were wrong to try, but because the silence felt like failure.
And you never know how close you were when you stop.
It makes me think of language learning so specifically. For a long time, learners feel slow and stuck. They feel like the language isn't going in. And then one day, without any warning or announcement, something clicks. They understand a joke naturally. They reply without translating first. They catch themselves thinking in English without trying. And they think, wait, when did that start happening?
Progress often arrives quietly and without ceremony. It doesn't always knock loudly. Sometimes it just settles in while you weren't watching.
And this is why patience is not a passive quality. It's not about doing nothing and waiting. Patience is an active daily choice. You keep going even when you can't see the evidence yet. You trust the process even when the process feels silent.
And so many people think they need more talent, more natural ability, more of some quality they weren't born with. But often what they actually need is more time, more steadiness, more trust.
Now, to be fair, not every goal needs to be pushed forever. Sometimes stepping away really is the right decision. Sometimes something genuinely isn't working or genuinely isn't right for you at this point in your life.
Absolutely, and recognizing that is its own kind of wisdom.
But that decision should come from real, calm reflection, not from one exhausted evening, not from one frustrating week, not from one loud moment of doubt that temporarily feels like the whole truth.
So, what do we actually do in those moments when everything feels heavy and your motivation has completely disappeared and you want to close the notebook and just start something fresh and new and exciting?
Let's talk about that. Practical things, how to stay when everything in you wants to leave.
First, narrow down the goal. To narrow down means to make something smaller, clearer, and more focused, because when a goal starts to feel like a judgment on your entire identity, it becomes impossible to carry.
Reduce it. If the goal feels too big, make it smaller. If the routine feels too demanding, make it lighter. If the whole process feels overwhelming, find just one single next step and focus only on that. Just one thing. That's all.
Because people often quit not because the goal itself is wrong, but because it grew too emotionally heavy. It stopped being "I missed a few days" and became "I'm fundamentally the kind of person who never follows through." And that is way too much weight to put on a single difficult week.
So speak to yourself more carefully. Stay specific, stay calm. Don't let one hard moment become a story about your whole character.
Second, return to your honest reason. Not the grand, inspired reason you wrote in a burst of motivation, the real, quiet, human one underneath it.
Maybe you started because you wanted more confidence, more peace, more connection with the world, more self-respect. Come back to that reason when everything else feels blurry and unclear. It's an anchor.
Third, allow imperfect consistency. This might be the most important one. A messy, imperfect effort that keeps going is almost always stronger than a perfect effort that burns out after 2 weeks and disappears.
That line deserves to be written somewhere people see it every day.
It really does, because perfection is not the goal. Continuation is the goal. Showing up, even badly, even briefly, even reluctantly, is still showing up.
Fourth, change your question. Stop asking, do I feel inspired today? That's the wrong question. Inspiration comes and goes. It's not reliable. Instead, ask, can I stay with this just a little bit longer? Can I do just one small thing today? Not everything, just one thing.
Because sometimes the most courageous act isn't doing more. It's simply not leaving the process, not leaving the work, not leaving yourself just because today wasn't exciting or rewarding.
Staying is a skill. It doesn't look dramatic from the outside. It doesn't make a great story. Sometimes it's just one quiet, ordinary choice, made again and again and again. And over time, those small, ordinary choices change you in ways you couldn't have planned or predicted.
They really do. And I want to add one more thing before we move to the vocabulary because I think it's important.
Please.
A lot of people carry shame around this topic. They feel embarrassed about the goals they abandoned, the routines they started and stopped, the things they were going to do and didn't. And that shame keeps them from trying again.
Yes, because shame says you've already proven you can't do this. Why would this time be different?
But shame is not useful data. It's just old pain wearing a logical costume. And the truth is, every single person you admire has a long list of things they tried and stopped, things they abandoned, things they went back to 3 times before they made them work.
Starting again is not failure. Starting again is information. It means you still care. It means the thing still matters to you. And that matters.
So, if you've quit something before and you're thinking about trying again, don't let the history of stopping become a reason not to start. Let it become a reason to start differently, with smaller steps, with more patience, with less pressure on the beginning and more respect for the middle.
That is such an important reframe. The history of stopping doesn't define your future. It just gives you more information about what didn't work last time.
Exactly, and that information is valuable. Use it.
All right, let's slow down now and spend some time with the key vocabulary from today's episode. These words and phrases are genuinely useful in everyday English, so let's make sure they really land.
First, leave an impression. To leave an impression means to create a strong, lasting effect on someone. Something that stays in the mind because it felt meaningful or powerful or emotionally significant. The beginning of a new goal often leaves an impression because of how hopeful it feels. Or, her honesty in that conversation really left an impression on me.
Next, take a toll. If something takes a toll on you, it gradually has a negative effect on your energy, emotions, or health. Not suddenly, slowly, over time. Staying in the difficult middle without visible results can take a toll on your motivation. Or years of working without proper rest finally took a toll on his health.
Reluctant. If you feel reluctant, you're not fully willing to do something. You feel hesitant, a little resistant, not particularly enthusiastic. After weeks without visible progress, she became reluctant to keep going. Or he felt reluctant to bring up the problem, even though it needed to be addressed.
Insightful. Something insightful demonstrates deep, genuine understanding. It helps you see something more clearly or from a new angle. That was an insightful observation about why people find the middle stage so difficult. Or she gave an insightful answer that changed the way I thought about the problem.
Perception. Perception is the way you see, understand, or interpret something. Your perception of your own progress is often distorted, especially when you're tired or discouraged. Or our perception of success is heavily shaped by what we see on social media.
On the verge of. To be on the verge of something means to be very close to it happening, right on the edge of it. Sometimes, when discomfort feels the strongest, you're actually on the verge of a real breakthrough. Or, after months of quiet work, she was on the verge of something genuinely significant.
Unpredictable. If something is unpredictable, you can't easily know or anticipate what will happen next. Growth is unpredictable. It doesn't follow the same path or timeline for everyone. Or, the first few months of any new skill are unpredictable and often discouraging.
Show willingness. To show willingness means to demonstrate that you are open, ready, and prepared to try, even when it's hard or uncertain. What matters most is whether you show willingness to stay in the process, even on the difficult days. Or she showed real willingness to learn, even after making the same mistakes several times.
Walk away from. To walk away from something means to leave it behind, to step away and disengage. Many people walk away from their goals right before things begin to improve. Or sometimes the most self-respecting thing you can do is walk away from a situation that isn't healthy.
Narrow down. To narrow down means to reduce and focus, to move from something broad and overwhelming to something clear and manageable. When everything feels like too much, narrow down to just one next step. Or, before making a decision, it helps to narrow down your options to the 2 or 3 that actually matter most.
And finally, imperfect consistency. This one isn't a single dictionary word, it's a concept worth holding on to. Imperfect consistency means showing up regularly even when your effort isn't perfect, even when you're tired, even when it's brief. A messy effort that continues will almost always outlast a perfect effort that burns out. Imperfect consistency is what gets people to the finish line.
Those are your key words and phrases from today. Let them settle in. You don't need to memorize all of them right now. Just let them become familiar. Let them find their way into how you think and speak.
And maybe the real heart of today is this: you don't always need to do more. Sometimes you just need to stay a little longer. Trust the quiet, respect the middle, be patient with the invisible work, and don't walk away from yourself too quickly.
Because you are probably closer than you think.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us. This is Sky and Nate from Say It Real. Fluency starts with real conversations, and you're already having them.